Now, you may be asking, hey, troglodyte, brainlet, idiot, moron, fool, why haven't you uploaded in 3 entire months? And the only response I have to that question is, shut up. If you know me, you know that for a long time I've liked RWBY. If you know me, you also know that my patience for RWBY has been steadily declining for almost as long as hashtag impeach Trump has been force trending on Twitter. That's a long time. So, without further ado, let's get into why that is. RWBY started as an action/high school anime set in a fictional school named Beacon Academy, where huntsmen and huntresses protect the world from Grim. There's also this weird superpower shit going on, and dust is a substitute for bullets. Don't question it. We follow a character named Ruby Rose, the leader of Team RWBY, Ruby Weiss Blake Yang, as they get accustomed to life at Beacon. They meet friends along the way, including Team Juniper, which is John, Nora, Pyrrha, and Ren. Remember them, they're important. There are, of course, antagonists, including Eyeshadow and Not Medusa. The show was highly praised for its fast-paced fight scenes, which could be more easily achieved due to its 3D animation. Very smooth, very nice. And while the animation was new and looked a little bit awkward at times, it still looked really good overall, despite the creepy shadow people walking around looking like they could consume the souls of the main characters whenever it was they saw fit. So far, things were looking up, but it was still just the beginning.
If she breathes, she's off!
The high school antics continue, but now things are spiced up with Team RWBY having to take down a crime syndicate. More action, and everybody was made happy. We're introduced to a lot of new characters, including Adam Tourist, an antagonist mostly for Blake. Everybody on Earth believes that this man is cringy as fuck. I get it that it's the anime man with sword trope, but like, they pull it off horribly. There's also Mercury, who's kind of bland, Emerald, who's not Krona, Penny, who is a robot, who we'll get to later. The art style improved even more. The creepy shadow people were gone and replaced with actual people. Overall, Volume 2 was a step forward, and it was very much an improvement on the first volume. This is where shit hits the fan. The Vital Tournament is taking place now, which is essentially the Chunin exams, and all the huntsmen are fighting each other. It goes as planned until Not Medusa fucks it up, Roman is eaten, Pyrrha takes an arrow to the wrong place, and Penny's cut into bits. I guess you could say, bitcoins. Anyway, RWBY had managed to Soul Eater its way into a new phase of its story. Things were expected to only get more interesting from here. Things did not get more interesting from here. Volume 4 did cover some good backstory for Ren and Nora, but that's about all it did. The fight scenes that RWBY was known for were utter trash now, and the volume focused on the riveting story arc of the main characters walking around. Volume 4 was incredibly fucking boring. Now, it is true that the series' original creator, Mani Ohm, sadly died before the release of Volume 3, leaving the team for Volume 4 without very much direction, so at the time I was willing to give them a pass for Volume 4 being subpar. It was a minor slip-up in the eyes of many RWBY fans, and we just wanted to see what was next. But I also want to point out the odd lack of character development RWBY gets in this volume. Like, she witnesses 2 of her best friends die brutally, and she barely acknowledges it at all, save for the one time she saw John acknowledging Pyrrha's death. She doesn't mention Penny once. But, before we move on, I want you to take a look at this clip, and you tell me what's wrong here. You see it? I bet you do. I'll give you a second. Unless you have your eyes closed, you do see it, because it's the entire thing. What is this? I cannot be the only one who thinks this art style is absolutely hideous. Their eyes are too far apart. There's this weird lip shading on all of them. It makes them look just strange. They look like they're all made of plastic. It's just gross. The art styles of the first 3 volumes was good. It fit the show well. What the switch from Poser to Maya did to it was horrible. Look what happened to RWBY. This isn't even akin to Persona 5 looking a little bit different than 3 and 4 due to the art style evolving over the years. All those years. Or Naruto Shippuden changing a little bit to follow the mood of the show. Everything looks just completely different after a 1-year gap. You can't just do that quickly. But I digress. Let's move on to Volume 5.
Make sure nobody is around when you're watching.
This volume was bad. Really bad. Why? For starters, let's talk about what made RWBY so enjoyable to begin with. The fight scenes. There wasn't very much action in Volume 4, and there's no problem with the slow burner every now and then. But the problem with Volume 5's action, it's not that there isn't any, it's just that it's not good. Let's look at the last fight scene in the volume as an example. For some context, it's been revealed that good old Lionheart is actually loyal to not Medusa and her mom, not Medusa, and they have the relic that they need for the plot to advance. Adam Taurus has the place rigged to explode, and a bunch of people who really don't matter show up, as well as Not Krona. But, while everybody's conveniently not looking, Not Medusa decides to be Not Medusa and impale Weiss through the torso. Now, what do you think happens next? A, this results in a desperate against-all-odds fight to take the relic while also protecting a mortally wounded Weiss from any more damage, with watchers unsure of her survival throughout. B, they're forced to retreat, and Not Medusa is able to get the relic before them, leaving them down on the scoreboard going into Volume 6. Or C, John literally just heals her. John gets mad, unlocks his persona, unlocks his semblance, which is being a combat medic, and heals Weiss without even knowing how he's doing it. This is bad on a lot of levels. First off, the continuity of the fight is possibly the worst I've ever seen from anything ever, except Chicago City actors. In one shot, you'll have two characters fighting one another, and then it'll cut to two others, and it'll cut back, and it's as if they've stopped fighting and haven't moved since the camera cut away. Another issue is the huge lack of any tension or suspense throughout the entire thing. It doesn't feel like anything other than people waving sticks at each other for an episode straight. The word I use to best describe Volume 5 is shit, easily the worst in the series.
So many haters on my crap!
One thing I will give Volume 6 credit for is its fight scenes. They're a lot better than they were in Volume 5. It's not hard to be better than Volume 5, though. The animation looks better, at least technically. It still looks like plastic, though, in my opinion. The music is good, as it's always been, even though it might not be as good as they were in the first 4 volumes. There are some new characters introduced. They're fine. Salem and Ozpin are given some incredibly bland backstory. All well and good. But that's about all the praise I can give it. There are 2 massive problems with Volume 6, however. The first of which being this moron. The moment there was some actual depth being given to this character, the moment he started to be a shred likable, they made him a creepy ex-boyfriend with a god complex. And not in like the villainous or likable way either, just the sadly funny way. Volume 6 cemented his position in the show as the villain you're supposed to hate, but you just end up laughing at because he's that stupid. And then they killed him. The other problem can be summed up in one word. Fucking Bumblebee. The RWBY fandom is a hideous thing. At the beginning, the show was about fun, likable characters, great fight scenes, and kick-ass music. But then as the show went on, the fandom became what I can only describe as a parallel to the Sonic fandom, and began only giving a shit about ships. And they shipped everybody. Nobody was safe. They were shipping people with the minigun chick from Volume 2. I think shipping is weird, period. But when the studio caves and does it for the sole purpose of pandering to the fandom, I think that's just obnoxious and stupid. And they don't even do it. They keep leaving these hints throughout the entire thing that Bumblebee's gonna happen, but it doesn't actually yet. If you're gonna do it, just do it. Alright, if I have to hear I ship anything related to RWBY one more time, I might just meddle in the relations between the United States and North Korea enough to start a nuclear war and end humanity. I'm okay. It's okay. And here we are in the present. See all that in the first 6 volumes? That wasn't actually what threw me off. I was ready for Volume 7. I was hoping that it would be good. I was hoping that it could bring RWBY back to what it was before. Remember the tangent I just went on about pandering to the fandom? Well, they brought back Penny. I had expected RWBY's writers to know that, especially with Penny, of all characters, that if a character dies and creates an impact on the other characters like she did, then bringing them back is something that you should never do. Imagine if, in Naruto, they just brought back Jiraiya, for the sake of it. Doing that essentially removes any power that Pain's arc carried. This scene would mean nothing. It would make Naruto less good. Similarly, Bringing Penny back makes this scene mean nothing. It makes RWBY less good. I really don't care what happens in Volume 7. The mere fact they brought back Penny is enough for me to stop watching it. I gave RWBY chances for what feels like years, because it was years, and it still failed to improve, and it still is shit. If you want to know what a good RWBY would look like, just watch Soul Eater.